You think that mop makes you invisible, old man? The fluorescent light flickers once, twice. The supply closet smells of bleach and sweat and something else, the sharp metallic tang of fear that Cornelius Shaw hasn't smelled in 6 years. 2 deputies block the door. The bigger one, Travis Gunner, has his hand resting on his baton. The other, Boyd Haskell, holds something that catches the light. A set of master keys. Cornelius's master keys. The ones that were in his breast pocket at 5:47 this morning. Nothing in this building moves without us knowing. Gunner steps forward, boots heavy on the concrete. You've been real comfortable here, haven't you? Walking around like you own the place. Like you belong. Cornelius doesn't answer. His eyes sweep the room in a single motion. Distance to door, 2.4 meters. Angle of exit, 35 degrees right. Obstacles, chemical drums, mop cart, metal shelving unit. Gunner's weight distribution favors his left leg. Old injury, probably. Haskell is chewing gum, jaw working nervously. Subordinate energy. The assessment takes less than 2 seconds. Old habits don't die. They hibernate. Guess what we found in Judge Morrison's chambers? Haskell holds up the keys, grinning. Want to explain how county property ended up in a restricted area, Janitor? The intercom crackles overhead. A dispatcher's voice, bored and clinical. All units, Code 4 at the East Wing. Custodial staff reported for suspicious behavior. Unit 7, respond. Suspicious behavior. Cornelius has mopped these floors for 6 years. Not once has anyone called him by name. Gunner closes the distance. His shadow falls across Cornelius like a verdict. Here's how this works. You confess to breaking into the judge's office. You resign. You walk out quiet. No charges filed. Or... He pulls the baton free, the metal singing against leather. We do this the hard way. The door clicks shut behind Haskell. The lights go out. And somewhere in the darkness, Cornelius Shaw feels something stir. Something he buried in the red earth of 3 continents. Something that speaks in the language of broken bones and silenced screams. He chose invisibility. He chose peace. But peace, it seems, didn't choose him back. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. What happens next will change everything you think you know about this janitor. 4 weeks earlier, Clayton County Courthouse rises from the Georgia red clay like a fist of limestone and glass, its neoclassical columns casting long shadows across the parking lot at 5:47 in the morning. The security guard at the east entrance doesn't look up when Cornelius Shaw badges through. Nobody looks up. That's the point. Cornelius pushes his cleaning cart down the second-floor corridor, wheels squeaking softly against marble. The courtrooms are dark, the hallways empty, the only sound the distant hum of HVAC systems pushing recycled air through recycled spaces. 6 years of the same route. 6 years of the same corners, the same stains, the same ghosts. He likes the ghosts. They don't ask questions. His uniform, gray polyester, county seal on the breast pocket, hangs loose on a frame that was once 220 pounds of mission-ready muscle. 58 years old now. Thinning hair, more salt than pepper. A slight hunch in the shoulders that could be age, could be old injuries, could be the weight of things no one should carry. The cart holds industrial cleaner, microfiber cloths, a mop with a head that needs replacing, and a thermos of black coffee he brewed at 4:15. No sugar, no cream. The same coffee he's been drinking for 28 years because consistency is survival, and change is a variable that gets people killed. He stops outside courtroom 4. Through the window, he can see the American flag hanging limp, the empty jury box, the judge's bench where decisions fall like guillotine blades on people who can't afford better lawyers. Justice is supposed to be blind. Cornelius knows better. Justice sees everything. It just pretends not to. He unlocks the door, wheels the cart inside, and begins his routine. Dust the railings, wipe the surfaces, check the trash, note anything out of place. This isn't cleaning. This is reconnaissance dressed in polyester. The habit stays because the training never leaves. At 6:22, he finds a document under the prosecution table. Someone's closing argument, 15 pages, confidential header. He places it in the bailiff's inbox without reading past the first line. Information is power, but stolen information is a liability. Some lessons cost more than others to learn. By 6:45, the eastern windows glow orange with sunrise, and the building begins to wake. Footsteps in distant stairwells. Elevator chimes. The smell of bad coffee from the second-floor break room. Cornelius finishes courtroom 4 and moves on. Nobody notices. That's the job. The first time Margot Sinclair spoke to Cornelius Shaw, she didn't use his name. 8:15 in the morning. Main rotunda. Cornelius is buffing the marble floor near the central staircase, the machine humming beneath his hands. Margot Sinclair, court administrator, clicks past in heels that cost more than his monthly paycheck. Charcoal blazer, pearl earrings, hair pulled back so tight it seems to stretch her face into permanent disapproval. She doesn't slow down, doesn't look at him, just speaks into the air as she passes, like dictating to a servant who happens to share the same oxygen. Someone left streaks on the marble again. Tell your supervisor this is a courthouse, not a bus station. Her heels echo against the stone. Click, 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 fading into the east wing. Cornelius keeps buffing. His face doesn't change. His hands don't tighten on the machine. His heart rate, if anyone cared to measure it, holds steady at 62 beats per minute. He's heard that tone before. In 12 countries. In 9 languages. From warlords, from dictators, from men who believed their uniforms made them gods. The words are different. The meaning is identical. I don't see you as human. The streaks, for the record, aren't streaks. They're variations in the original stone, installed in 1912, visible only at certain angles, when the morning light hits just right. Margot Sinclair doesn't know this because Margot Sinclair doesn't ask questions of people she considers furniture. Cornelius finishes the rotunda. He moves on to the third-floor restrooms, and he files the interaction away in the same mental cabinet where he keeps mission reports, threat assessments, and the names of people who underestimated him. That cabinet is full. The break room on the second floor has a microwave that beeps too loud, a refrigerator that smells of forgotten lunches, and a table with 4 chairs where Cornelius Shaw eats alone. 12:30. He opens his lunch container. Brown rice, steamed broccoli, grilled chicken breast, no seasoning, no sauce. The same meal he's eaten every day for 20 years because nutrition is fuel, and taste is a luxury he stopped affording in places where food meant survival, not pleasure. He arranges the portions in 3 equal sections. Rice left, protein center, vegetables right. His back is straight, his chair angled so he can see both the door and the window. Some habits are harder to break than others. Some habits are the only reason he's alive. The door swings open. 2 deputies enter, moving like they own the space, which, in their minds, they do. Travis Gunner comes first. 29 years old, 6'2", 210 pounds, distributed with gym-built vanity, jaw like a shovel, eyes like a dog that's been kicked too many times and learned to kick back. He's been with the sheriff's office for 3 years, transferred from Cobb County under circumstances that no one talks about, but everyone knows. Boyd Haskell follows. Shorter, softer, the kind of man who attaches himself to stronger predators and feeds on their scraps. He's chewing gum, always chewing gum, jaw working like he's grinding his own teeth to dust. Gunner's shoulder clips the doorframe on the way in. He doesn't apologize. Men like Gunner don't apologize because apology implies equality, and equality is something they can't afford to believe in. Hey, Haskell. Gunner pulls a chair out, the metal legs scraping against linoleum. You smell that? Haskell sniffs theatrically. What's that? Floor wax? Nah, something else. Gunner sits, legs spread wide, taking up as much space as physics allows. Smells like government cheese, food stamps, and failure. Haskell laughs. It's the laugh of a man who doesn't find anything funny but knows when he's supposed to perform. Cornelius continues eating. Rice, chicken, broccoli. His chewing is measured, mechanical. His eyes stay on his food. "Hey," Gunner raises his voice. "I'm talking to you, janitor. You deaf or just rude?" Cornelius lifts his gaze, meets Gunner's eyes, holds there for exactly 1 second, long enough to acknowledge, short enough to avoid challenge. "I heard you, deputy." His voice is flat, quiet, the kind of quiet that comes from years of speaking only when words serve a purpose. Gunner's eyes narrow. He's not used to calm. He's used to fear, to deference, to the small satisfactions of watching people shrink. This old man isn't shrinking. "You got a name, or should I just call you Mop?" "Cornelius Shaw, custodial staff, 6 years." 6 years. Gunner whistles low. "And you're still pushing a broom. That's what I call career advancement." Haskell snickers. Cornelius returns to his food. Rice, chicken, broccoli, 62 beats per minute. The silence stretches. Gunner wanted a reaction. Anger, shame, something he could use. What he got was nothing. And nothing, for men like Gunner, is more insulting than anything. He shoves back from the table, stands, leans across until his shadow falls over Cornelius's lunch. "Word of advice, old-timer. This building has a hierarchy. Deputies at the top, janitors at the bottom. You stay in your lane, we stay in ours. Cross that line." He lets the threat hang. "And we have a problem." Cornelius doesn't look up, just lifts a piece of broccoli to his mouth, chews, swallows. Gunner's jaw tightens. For a moment, just a moment, something flickers in his eyes. Uncertainty. The primal recognition that prey isn't supposed to act like this. Then it's gone. "Come on, Haskell." Gunner straightens, tugs his duty belt. "Place stinks." They leave. The door swings shut. Cornelius finishes his meal in silence. He washes his container in the sink, dries it with paper towels, places it back in his bag with the corners aligned. Then he sits for exactly 90 seconds, breathing slowly, letting the adrenaline he doesn't show metabolize through his system. His hands are steady. They haven't shaken in 6 years. He intends to keep it that way. The office of Sheriff Lonnie Craddock occupies the corner of the 3rd floor, where 2 walls of windows offer views of the parking lot and the strip mall across the street. The walls are covered in framed photographs, 30 years of handshakes with governors, police chiefs, state senators, commendations from the National Sheriff's Association, a law enforcement excellence plaque from 2016. Not a single photograph includes a face that isn't white. Craddock sits behind his desk, a man weathered by decades of sun, whiskey, and selective enforcement. 62 years old, 310 pounds. A face like raw dough pressed into the shape of authority. He's been sheriff for 18 years, elected and re-elected on platforms of tough on crime that somehow always translate to tough on certain people. Through the glass wall of his office, he watches the hallway. Cornelius Shaw pushes his cart past, eyes forward, shoulders slightly hunched. "That janitor," Craddock speaks without turning. His secretary, a thin woman named Patricia, who's learned that survival means anticipating needs, looks up from her computer. "Sir?" "The colored one. How long's he been here?" "Mr. Shaw? 6 years, sir." 6 years. Craddock taps a pen against his desk. "And I still don't know his name, don't know where he came from, don't know anything about him." Patricia hesitates. She's been Craddock's secretary for 11 years. She knows when he's thinking out loud and when he wants answers. This feels like the former, but with Craddock, you never know. "He has a clean record with HR, sir. No complaints, no issues." "That's what bothers me." Craddock watches until the cart disappears around the corner. "Man works here 6 years, doesn't cause trouble, doesn't make friends, doesn't ask for raises, keeps his head down, does his job, goes home. You know what that looks like to me?" "Sir?" "Looks like a man with something to hide." He turns back to his desk, dismisses her with a wave. Keep an eye on him, quietly. Patricia nods. She doesn't ask why. Questions are above her pay grade. And somewhere in the hallway, Cornelius Shaw keeps pushing his cart, unaware that the crosshairs have just locked onto his back. Or maybe not unaware. Maybe just unsurprised. 3 weeks before the supply closet. The employee parking lot sits behind the courthouse, a cracked expanse of asphalt marked with faded yellow lines and illuminated by sodium lights that buzz like dying insects. 6:12 in the evening. Cornelius Shaw walks toward his car, a 2009 Honda Civic, gray, unremarkable, chosen specifically because no one remembers gray. The patrol car appears from nowhere. It swings across his path, blocking the exit lane, headlights washing over him in artificial daylight. Cornelius stops. His hands stay visible at his sides. This isn't his first time. The driver's door opens. Travis Gunner steps out, adjusting his duty belt with the studied casualness of a man who wants you to know he has a gun. Hold it right there. Cornelius doesn't move. I work here, deputy. Badge is on my chest. Badge can be faked. Gunner walks closer, flashlight clicking on even though the parking lot is fully lit. The beam hits Cornelius's face, holds there. ID check. Driver's license. Now. Behind Gunner, a second figure emerges from the passenger side. Boyd Haskell. Of course. Cornelius keeps his voice even. There's a sign at the entrance. County Ordinance 1247. Badge-wearing personnel don't require additional identification in employee parking areas. Gunner's flashlight doesn't waver. I don't care what the sign says. I'm the law here. The words hang between them like smoke. Cornelius considers his options. He could comply, produce the license, endure the inspection, go home. He could argue, cite the ordinance again, invoke his rights, escalate. He could resist, not physically but bureaucratically, requesting badge numbers, documenting the encounter. He chooses a fourth option. His hand moves slowly, deliberately slowly, so there's no misinterpretation, to his breast pocket. He pulls out his phone. Old model, cracked screen, prepaid minutes. He opens the camera app. Georgia Code 161162 permits recording of law enforcement in public spaces. He holds the phone up, screen facing them. I'm documenting this interaction for my records. Gunner's flashlight drops slightly. His jaw tightens. Put that away. I'm exercising my legal rights, deputy. I said put it away. Haskell moves around the patrol car, flanking right. 2 against 1 now, geometry designed for intimidation. Cornelius doesn't adjust his position. Doesn't need to. He knows exactly where Haskell is. Am I being detained? Cornelius asks. Calm, measured. The question of a man who knows the answer but wants it on record. Gunner's hand drifts toward his baton. Keep talking, old man. Give me a reason. The radio on Gunner's shoulder crackles. A dispatcher's voice, urgent. All units, domestic disturbance at 1427 Maple. Possible weapons involved. Gunner hesitates. The call is priority. He knows it. Cornelius knows it. Unit 7 responding. Gunner's voice is tight as he keys his radio. Then, to Cornelius. We're not done, Janitor. Not by a long shot. He returns to the patrol car. Haskell follows. The vehicle reverses, tires squealing on asphalt, and disappears around the building. Cornelius stands alone in the empty lot. He lowers the phone, stops the recording, saves the file to cloud storage with a timestamp and location tag. Then he walks to his car, gets in, sits for exactly 3 minutes without starting the engine. His hands rest on the steering wheel. They aren't shaking. But inside, somewhere deep beneath the training and the discipline and the scar tissue of 30 years of violence, something stirs. A voice he thought he'd silenced. They're testing you, probing your defenses. This is reconnaissance. He starts the engine, drives home, eats dinner alone in his studio apartment, does not sleep well. The voice doesn't stop. 2 weeks before the supply closet. The main rotunda at 9 in the morning is a circus of polished shoes and performative importance. Margot Sinclair leads a tour group through the space, 6 members of the County Board of Supervisors, distinguished by their identical gray suits and their identical expressions of constipated authority. Cornelius is polishing the brass railings of the central staircase. Same task he performs every Monday. Same motion. Same result. Margot stops mid-sentence when she sees him. "Excuse me." Her voice carries across the marble, designed to be heard. "We're conducting an official tour. Could you relocate?" Cornelius keeps polishing. "I'll be done in 5 minutes, ma'am." The board members exchange glances. One of them, a man with silver hair and the permanent tan of golf courses, smirks. Margot's smile doesn't waver, but her eyes harden. She turns to the group with a performative sigh. "I apologize. Some staff don't understand the concept of priority scheduling." The words land like a slap. Public humiliation dressed as administrative concern. Cornelius stops polishing. He looks at Margot Sinclair. Really looks, for the first time. Sees the careful makeup, the designer bag, the wedding ring, large diamond, ostentatious. The slight tremor in her left hand that she hides by gripping her clipboard. He sees a woman who builds her power by diminishing others, who mistakes cruelty for competence, who will never, ever see him as anything but a problem to be managed. "My apologies, ma'am." He gathers his supplies. "I'll return after your tour." He walks away. The board members resume their performance. Margot Sinclair doesn't watch him go. She's already moved on to the next talking point. But Cornelius remembers. He always remembers. And somewhere in that mental cabinet, a new file opens. Sinclair, Margot, Court Administrator. Threat level, low. Status, monitoring. The compliance office is a windowless room on the first floor, sandwiched between human resources and the copy center. Dwight Norwood sits behind a desk organized with pathological precision, pens sorted by color, documents aligned at perfect right angles. A single plant that looks artificial, but is actually real, tended with the same obsessive care he applies to county regulations. 10:30 in the morning. Cornelius sits across from him. "Mr. Shaw." Norwood adjusts his glasses, metal frames, rimless, the kind that make ordinary men look like bureaucrats, and bureaucrats look like executioners. "I've reviewed your time cards for the past month." He slides a printout across the desk. Cornelius doesn't touch it. "On March 3rd, you clocked in at 5:47 a.m. Your shift begins at 6. I came early to finish the East Wing before the Peterson hearing. Early clock-ins without prior supervisor approval violate Section 4.2.1 of the Employee Handbook." Norwood produces a second document, a form with boxes and signatures and the cold authority of institutional power. "I'm issuing a written warning." Cornelius looks at the form. 6 years without a single infraction. Now, 13 minutes of early arrival is a disciplinary matter. The East Wing needed attention. The hearing started at 8. "The policy is clear, Mr. Shaw. If you'd submitted a pre-approved overtime request through the proper channels—" "I wasn't requesting overtime. I was doing my job." Norwood's pen taps the desk. Once. Twice. "The policy doesn't distinguish between compensated and uncompensated early arrivals. A violation is a violation." Cornelius could argue, could point out that the handbook also states disciplinary action should be proportionate and progressive, could note that other employees clock in early daily without consequence, could ask why he's being singled out. But he knows the answer, and arguing with men like Norwood doesn't change policies. It creates paper trails. "May I have a copy for my records?" Norwood hesitates. Bureaucrats rarely expect people to want documentation of their own punishment. Then he nods, produces a copy, slides it across. "Sign here. Acknowledging receipt, not admission of fault." Cornelius signs. His handwriting is precise, unadorned. The signature of a man trained to forge documents in 6 alphabets, now reduced to acknowledging a 13-minute time violation. Is there anything else? Not at this time, Mr. Shaw. Cornelius stands, takes his copy, exits without another word. In the hallway, he folds the document into thirds and places it in his breast pocket, next to the badge that means nothing and the phone that records everything. The first rule of asymmetric warfare. Documentation wins when force fails. The second rule, never let them see you bleed. If you're still watching, drop a comment telling me what you think is really going on with this janitor. Your theories might be closer to the truth than you think. 10 days before the supply closet. 7 in the morning. Supply room B12. Cornelius unlocks the door, flips the light switch, and stops. Something is wrong. The room is small, maybe 10 feet by 15, packed with metal shelves holding industrial cleaners, paper products, and equipment. He knows this room like he knows his own heartbeat. Every bottle, every box, every shadow. The industrial bleach bottles on shelf 3 are out of alignment, labels facing wrong direction. Someone moved them. He steps inside, pulling the door mostly closed behind him. His eyes sweep the space systematically. Floor, shelves, corners, ceiling. No visible disturbance except the bottles. But there's more. The faint smell of aftershave that isn't his. The barely perceptible scuff mark near the utility sink that wasn't there yesterday. Someone was here after his shift. Someone who wanted to be invisible but left traces anyway. Cornelius opens the inventory ledger. Standard procedure. All withdrawals logged, signed, dated. According to the ledger, no one has accessed this room in 72 hours. According to the evidence, that's a lie. He counts the bleach bottles. 2 missing. He checks the corresponding entries. No withdrawals recorded. Sloppy. Whoever did this wanted to create a discrepancy, but they didn't understand how inventory control works. They thought they could simply take, and the absence would be noticed. But absence without explanation is just confusion. What creates problems is absence with accusation. That will come later. He's sure of it. Cornelius photographs the shelves with his phone, the misaligned bottles, the scuff mark, the ledger page. Time stamps everything, uploads to cloud. Then he puts on gloves, realigns the bottles, and continues his morning rounds. Evidence preserved. Baseline established. Counter-surveillance initiated. The prey is learning to hunt. The email arrives at 9:14 a.m. Cornelius checks his county account from the break room computer. Employees aren't supposed to use work terminals for personal matters, but checking official correspondence isn't personal, and besides, the computer tracks every keystroke anyway. If they want to know what he's reading, they already know. From D. Norwood, Compliance Office, to C. Shaw, Custodial Staff, C. M. Sinclair, Court Administration. Subject, Inventory Discrepancy. Custodial Supplies. Mr. Shaw, records indicate 2 units of industrial cleaning solvent, item number 4471, are unaccounted for as of inventory check dated March 5th. Please provide written explanation within 48 hours or face disciplinary review. Regards, Dwight Norwood. Compliance Officer Cornelius reads it twice, notes the CC to Margot Sinclair, notes the 48-hour deadline, notes the accusatory framing. Unaccounted for implies responsibility without direct allegation. He opens his phone, photographs the screen, uploads. Then he begins composing a response in his head. Not to send. That would be premature. But to have ready. The trap is set. The jaws are open. And somewhere in this building, Travis Gunner and Boyd Haskell are waiting for him to step in. What they don't know is that Cornelius Shaw has been escaping traps since before they were born. 2:15 in the afternoon. 3rd floor corridor, outside courtroom 4. The woman is 57 years old, according to the ID badge clipped to her blazer. Margaret Hollins, Public Defender's Office. She's been climbing the stairs instead of taking the elevator, trying to work off the 30 pounds her doctor has been mentioning for 3 years. She makes it to the landing, and then she doesn't. Her left hand goes to her chest. Her face shifts from flushed to gray. Her knees buckle. Cornelius is 30 feet away, changing a light bulb in the ceiling fixture. He drops the bulb. Doesn't matter, it shatters, someone else's problem, and moves. He reaches her in 4 seconds. She's on the ground now, gasping, conscious but barely. His fingers find her wrist. Pulse weak, irregular, too fast. He tilts her head back, checks her airway, clear. Loosens the top button of her blouse, reducing pressure on her chest. Elevates her legs 6 inches with his discarded tool bag. A clerk emerges from a nearby office. Young, panicked, useless. "Call 911. Cornelius's voice is sharp, commanding, nothing like the soft monotone he uses for "yes ma'am" and "I'll take care of it." "Tell them possible cardiac event. Female, late 50s, conscious, responsive, no visible trauma. We're on the 3rd floor, East Wing. Go." The clerk goes. Cornelius stays with the woman. He holds her hand, talks in a steady voice, not about what's happening, but about nothing. The weather, the light coming through the windows. Simple words to keep her present, to slow her breathing, to give her something other than fear. "You're doing fine. Help is coming. Just stay with me." Her eyes focus on his face. Who are you?" "Just the janitor, ma'am. Just the janitor." Footsteps behind him. Cornelius doesn't turn. He knows who it is by the perfume. Margot Sinclair, probably summoned by the commotion. He hears her voice, clipped and cold. "What happened?" "Possible cardiac event. EMTs are en route." "You moved her?" "I stabilized her." Silence. Then, "You're not trained for this." Cornelius finally looks up. Margot stands there, phone in hand, not calling anyone, just watching. Her expression isn't concern. It's something else. Calculation, maybe. Or suspicion. "Just common sense, ma'am." The EMTs arrive 7 minutes later. They check the woman's vitals, nod approvingly at her positioning, load her onto a stretcher. "Good work." The lead paramedic, a black woman with kind eyes and tired hands, looks at Cornelius. "You have medical training?" "No, ma'am. Just know enough to not make things worse." She studies him a moment longer than necessary. Then she nods and wheels the stretcher away. Cornelius retrieves his tool bag. The shattered light bulb is still on the floor. He'll need to get a broom. Behind him, Margot Sinclair hasn't moved. "That was impressive, Mr. Shaw." Her voice has a new edge. Very competent. "Thank you, ma'am." "Where did you learn to do that?" "Life experience." She waits for more. He doesn't give it. Finally, she turns and walks away, heels clicking sharp against marble. But Cornelius catches her pulling out a notepad, writing something down. He doesn't know what she wrote. He knows it isn't good. 7 days before the supply closet. 4 in the afternoon. The message appears on Cornelius's work tablet. "Report to Sheriff Craddock's office. Immediately." He doesn't rush. Rushing implies guilt. He finishes wiping down the 3rd floor water fountain, replaces his supplies in the cart, and walks, measured pace, steady breathing, to the office he's passed 1,000 times, but never entered. The secretary, Patricia, doesn't meet his eyes. "Go right in." He goes right in. Craddock sits behind his desk, a monument to authority. Travis Gunner stands beside the window, arms crossed, the posture of a man who's already decided the outcome. "Mr. Shaw." Craddock gestures to a chair. "Sit." Cornelius sits, back straight, hands on his thighs, eyes forward. "I've received reports." Craddock shuffles papers that he probably hasn't read. Insubordination, inventory discrepancies, filming officers without consent. Georgia Code 161162. I don't need a janitor lecturing me on Georgia Code. The words land like a closed fist. Craddock's voice doesn't rise. It doesn't need to. Men like Craddock have spent their lives learning that quiet control is more threatening than volume. Gunner steps forward, places a document on the desk, slides it toward Cornelius. Clayton County Sheriff's Office. Employee conduct warning. Name, Cornelius Shaw. Position, custodial staff violations, failure to comply with lawful orders, suspected theft of county property, creating a hostile work environment. Supervisor. Note, employee displays attitude problems and resistance to authority. Signed, Lieutenant Travis Gunner. Cornelius reads it carefully, notes the checkboxes, notes the language, suspected, not confirmed, notes Gunner's signature, heavy-handed, dominating the page. I'd like a copy of this for my records. Craddock's eyes narrow. You'll get a copy when HR processes it. Now get back to work. Cornelius stands, turns toward the door. Gunner blocks his path, gets close, too close, inside personal space, a dominance move that works on people who don't understand violence and fails completely on people who do. One more incident, old man. Gunner's breath smells of coffee and menace. Just one. And you won't just lose this job. You'll leave this building in cuffs. Cornelius meets his eyes, holds them. 1 second, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Gunner blinks first. His jaw tightens. He steps aside. Cornelius walks out. In his head, a voice he hasn't heard in 6 years whispers, "Patience is a weapon. Use it." He intends to. 5 days before the supply closet. Cornelius sits alone in his apartment, studio layout, efficiency kitchen, one window facing the parking lot. Rent is $600 a month, paid in cash, no questions asked. The walls are bare except for a single photograph, an aerial shot of mountains in a country that no longer exists by the name he knew it. He bought it at a thrift store. It means nothing. That's why he kept it. On the table in front of him sits a shoebox, old, worn, the cardboard soft from years of handling and not handling. He hasn't opened it in 6 years. Hasn't needed to. But tonight, something pulls at him. The memory of Gunner's eyes, the calculation in Margot Sinclair's notes, the systematic nature of the attacks, not random harassment, but coordinated escalation. Someone is building a case against him. Someone is laying groundwork. He opens the box. Inside, a silver star in a velvet case. The ribbon is faded, the metal dulled by time. No citation. The operation it commemorates is still classified, probably always will be. A bronze star with V device. Another one. A purple heart from a wound that still aches when the weather changes. Unit patches. Challenge coins. A photograph. Cornelius, 20 years younger, standing beside a man with silver hair and steady eyes. Franklin Gaines. Codename. Spectre. The man who trained him. The man who sent him into hell and pulled him back out. The man who told him 6 years ago that the best thing he could do for himself was disappear. You've given enough, Cornelius, more than enough. Find somewhere quiet, find peace, and for God's sake don't let them find you. He'd taken the advice. Georgia, a courthouse, a mop, invisibility. But someone is finding him anyway, not because of who he was. No one here knows that, but because of what he is. A black man who doesn't bow, a presence that refuses to shrink, a variable in a system that demands constants. Cornelius puts the photograph back, closes the box, doesn't open it again. But he doesn't put it away either. Some weapons need to stay within reach. The day of the supply closet, 5:30 in the afternoon. The message arrives on Cornelius's work tablet. Spill in supply closet B12. Cleanup required. He looks at the message, reads it twice. B12 is his supply closet. He was there this morning. There was no spill. He could ignore it. Clock out, go home, claim he didn't see the message until tomorrow. Let whatever trap they've set spring on empty air. But ignoring problems doesn't make them disappear. It just delays them. He pushes his cart to B12. The door is slightly ajar. The light is off. He knows what this is. He goes in anyway. The door slams behind him. Darkness. Total. The fluorescent lights don't flicker. They're off, deliberately off, the switch on the outside where he can't reach it. Then they come on, all at once, blinding after the black. Travis Gunner stands by the door. Boyd Haskell is behind the shelving unit, blocking any route to the back exit. Well, well, Gunner's voice is casual, conversational, the tone of a man who's done this before and enjoyed it. Look who walked right in. Cornelius doesn't move. His eyes adjust. His mind catalogs, Gunner armed, baton visible, hand not on weapon yet. Haskell nervous, shifting weight, looking to Gunner for cues. Chemical drums to the left, bleach, ammonia, mixing them would create chlorine gas, but that's a suicide option. Metal shelving unit to the right, heavy, could be toppled, but only as last resort. Exits. Main door, blocked by Gunner. Service hatch in the ceiling, requires ladder, not viable. No windows. Time. Approximately 6 minutes until security patrol passes this corridor. If the patrol passes. If anyone cares. Guess what we found? Haskell steps forward, holding something up. Keys. Master keys. Cornelius's master keys. In Judge Morrison's chambers, right there on his desk. Cornelius's hand goes to his breast pocket. The keys were there this morning. He checked. That's breaking and entering. Gunner's smile doesn't reach his eyes. Theft of judicial property. That's a felony, Janitor. Those keys were in my pocket. Your word against ours. Gunner takes a step forward, then another. And guess whose word counts in this building? Cornelius calculates. 3 options. 1. Comply. Confess to something he didn't do. Resign. Walk away. This ends the immediate threat but creates a criminal record and validates their power. 2. Argue. Demand evidence. Cite procedures. This extends the confrontation without changing the power dynamic and may escalate to physical conflict. 3. Wait. Let them make the first move. Document what happens. Use their aggression against them. He chooses 3. What do you want? Gunner's smile widens. Smart man. Here's the deal. You write a statement admitting you've been stealing from the courthouse. Cleaning supplies. Office equipment. Whatever we tell you to write. Then you resign, effective immediately. You walk out tonight, no charges filed. And if I don't? Then we do this the hard way. Gunner draws his baton. The metal gleams under fluorescent light. Behind him, Haskell shifts, hand moving toward his cuffs. Ready to restrain once Gunner finishes. Cornelius Shaw stands very still, and somewhere inside him, the thing he buried, the thing he's kept chained in darkness for 6 years, begins to wake up. The baton comes first. Gunner doesn't telegraph. He's had some training, enough to be dangerous to ordinary people. The swing aims for Cornelius's left shoulder, a pain-compliant strike designed to drive him to his knees without leaving marks that would require explanation. Cornelius doesn't block. He shifts, a half-step right, a slight rotation of the torso, and the baton whistles past his shoulder, missing by 2 inches. Gunner's momentum carries him forward, off balance for a fraction of a second. That fraction is enough. Cornelius moves inside the arc, left hand catching Gunner's wrist, right hand pressing against the elbow joint, not striking, just controlling, a hold he learned in a concrete room in a country that no longer exists. The baton drops. Gunner's arm is locked, hyperextended, 1 more pound of pressure from a break. Don't. Cornelius's voice is quiet. I don't want trouble. I just want to go home. Gunner grunts in pain, tries to twist free, fails. Let go of me. Call off your partner first. Haskell is frozen, hand on his taser, clearly not prepared for this scenario. He was supposed to be cleanup crew, not frontline combat. Haskell, stay back. Gunner's voice cracks. He's assaulting an officer. I'm defending myself. Your body cam is running. It will show who swung first. Silence. Heavy. The fluorescent lights hum. Cornelius holds the position for exactly 3 more seconds, long enough to establish control, short enough to demonstrate restraint. Then he releases Gunner's arm, steps back, puts his hands up, palms visible. "I'm going to walk out now. I'm going to clock out and go home. We can all pretend this didn't happen." Gunner stumbles, clutching his arm, face red with rage and humiliation. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life, old man." "Probably." Cornelius moves toward the door. "But not today's." He opens the door, steps into the hallway, walks toward the exit. Behind him he hears Gunner's voice, low and vicious. "Delete that footage. Now." Cornelius keeps walking. On Gunner's chest, the body cam's red light blinks once, twice, then goes dark. But somewhere, in a server room Gunner doesn't know about, backed up by a system he doesn't understand, the footage is already uploading to the State Archive. Timestamp: March 15th, 2024, 1732. The trap caught the wrong animal. And the animal is still walking. 6:15 in the evening. Interrogation Room B. Cornelius sits at a metal table, wrists uncuffed but message clear. 2 deputies stand by the door. Not Gunner, not Haskell, but their colleagues, summoned as backup for a situation that requires official weight. Sheriff Craddock paces in front of him. "Assaulting an officer. That's 5 to 10 years in Georgia, Shaw." Cornelius doesn't respond. "Gunner says you attacked him, tried to take his weapon." Haskell confirms. Still nothing. Craddock stops pacing, leans against the table, close enough that Cornelius can smell the bourbon on his breath. "You know what I think? I think you've been running a game on us. 6 years, keeping your head down, waiting for the right moment. Maybe you're scouting for a crew. Maybe you're casing the evidence room. I don't know yet, but I will." Cornelius lifts his gaze, meets Craddock's eyes. "I defended myself. Deputy Gunner's body cam recorded everything." Craddock's expression doesn't flicker. "What body cam? Equipment malfunction? Happens all the time." State Archive receives automatic uploads at 6 p.m. daily. The deletion request was timestamped at 6:47. The footage may already be backed up. For the first time, something shifts in Craddock's face. A flicker. Uncertainty. "You're bluffing." "Check with IT. The request went through Gunner's credentials." Silence. Craddock straightens, exchanges a glance with the deputies at the door. They look uncomfortable. This isn't how these conversations usually go. "You're free to go." Craddock's voice is flat. "For now, but don't come back until the investigation is complete. I'll need that in writing. You'll get what I give you." Cornelius stands, walks to the door. One of the deputies opens it for him, grudgingly, but he opens it. In the hallway, the fluorescent lights buzz their endless song. The courthouse is emptying out, workers heading home, justice adjourned until tomorrow. Cornelius walks toward the exit. He's 10 feet from the door when someone calls his name. "Mr. Shaw." He turns. An older man stands in the shadow of a doorway. Pastor Amos Redmond. Cornelius has seen him around the neighborhood presiding over Mount Zion Baptist, a fixture in the community. Gray hair, kind eyes, the bearing of someone who has seen suffering and chosen compassion anyway. "I heard what happened. Let me drive you home." Cornelius hesitates. He hasn't spoken to Redmond more than twice, hasn't given any indication he needs help. "How did you know I was here?" Redmond smiles, soft and knowing. "There are people who notice things, Mr. Shaw. People who remember what you did for the Hendricks family 3 years ago. The fire. The children." Cornelius stiffens. The Hendricks house. A gas leak. An explosion. A family trapped. He'd been walking by, heard the screams, went in without thinking. Pulled 2 kids out through a window. Disappeared before anyone could get his name. He never told anyone. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Of course not." Redmond gestures toward the parking lot. "My car's outside, no strings attached. Just a ride home for a man who's had a hard day." Cornelius considers refusing, considers walking home alone, maintaining the separation he's built between himself and everyone else. But something in Redmond's eyes, something that isn't pity, isn't judgment, isn't angle, makes him nod. "Okay, Pastor. Thank you." They walk out together. Behind them, the courthouse settles into evening silence, and somewhere on the third floor, Travis Gunner is on the phone with IT, demanding answers about archive backups. He won't like what he learns. We're about to reveal something that will change everything. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss part 2. 9:37 in the evening. Cornelius's apartment. Pastor Redmond dropped him off an hour ago with nothing but a handshake and a business card. "If you need anything, Mr. Shaw, anything at all." Now Cornelius sits by the window, lights off, watching the parking lot below. A sedan passes, another. Normal traffic patterns, nothing suspicious. His phone buzzes, unknown number. He lets it ring through to voicemail. The message plays, "Mr. Shaw, this is Laverne Atkins from the courthouse. I heard what happened. I just wanted you to know. I filed a complaint with Internal Affairs. What they're doing to you isn't right. You're not alone." Laverne, the front desk receptionist, the only person who smiled at him in 6 years. He didn't know she noticed. He saves the voicemail. On the table, the shoebox sits unopened. Next to it, the copy of the conduct warning he kept from Craddock's office. The employee handbook with section 4.2.1 highlighted. The photos of the supply closet, the misaligned bottles, the scuff marks, documentation, evidence, ammunition. He's been building a case without knowing it, or maybe knowing it all along. The phone buzzes again. Same unknown number. This time, he answers. "Shaw?" "Cornelius." A voice he hasn't heard in 6 years. Older now, rougher, but unmistakable. "It's Franklin." Cornelius's grip tightens on the phone. "Spectre. An FBI agent contacted Langley asking about your file. When I saw the reason, I got on a plane. You should have called me. I didn't want to bring the old world into this." "The old world is already there, Cornelius." Franklin's voice is heavy, burdened with the weight of things they've never spoken about, and probably never will. "The question is whether you're going to let them bury you, or let me help you bury them." Cornelius looks out the window. A car he doesn't recognize pulls into the lot, parks, engine off. Lights stay on for 30 seconds, then go dark. Someone is watching. "I need to think about it." Don't think too long. The FBI doesn't ask about retired assets for nothing. Someone's already digging. The only question is which side of the shovel you want to be on. Click. The line goes dead. Cornelius sets the phone down, looks at the shoebox, looks at the car in the parking lot. For 6 years, he chose invisibility, chose peace, chose the slow erasure of everything he was. But you can't erase the past. You can only bury it. And buried things have a way of rising. The car in the lot still hasn't moved. Cornelius turns off the one light he'd left on. In the darkness, he waits. The apex predator doesn't hunt. He lets the hunters come to him. 2 days later, the FBI pattern alert. Cornelius doesn't know this is happening. Won't know for weeks. But somewhere in Atlanta, in a glass-walled office with views of downtown, Special Agent Janitor Vaughn opens a file flagged by automated systems. FBI Civil Rights Division, pattern alert, Clayton County Sheriff's Office. Third complaint in 18 months involving deputies T. Gunner and B. Haskell. Previous complaints: 1. Excessive force, traffic stop, 2022. Settled. NDA signed. 2. False arrest. Blackmail, 2023. Charges dropped. No discipline. Current. Harassment/retaliation. Blackmail. Ongoing. Assigning. S. A Janitor Vaughn for preliminary assessment. Vaughn reads the summary. Standard pattern. Officers with complaint histories. Department that protects them. Victims who disappear into settlements or silence. But something about this one catches her attention. The complainant, Laverne Atkins, mentions a specific name, Cornelius Shaw. She runs the name through standard databases, DMV records, credit history, employment verification. Everything checks out. Cornelius Marcus Shaw, 58, resident of Jonesboro, Georgia, employed by Clayton County as custodial staff for 6 years. Clean, unremarkable, invisible, too clean. She runs the name through a different database, one that requires higher clearance, one that most FBI agents don't know exists. The screen goes blank for 3 seconds. Then a message appears. Access denied. Contact Langley for authorization. Vaughn leans back in her chair. In 18 years with the Bureau, she's seen that message exactly twice. Both times, it preceded cases that changed careers. She picks up her secure phone, dials a number from memory. This is Vaughn, Civil Rights Division. I need a priority security clearance check. Name, Cornelius Marcus Shaw. Date of birth, November 4, 1966. She pauses. And get me Langley on the line. In Jonesboro, Cornelius Shaw wakes at 5 a.m., same as always. He makes coffee, black, no sugar. He eats breakfast. Rice, chicken, broccoli. He dresses in his gray uniform, clips his badge to his breast pocket, and drives to a courthouse that doesn't want him. The car from last night isn't in the parking lot anymore, but he knows it will be back. They always come back, and when they do, he'll be ready. 3 weeks after the supply closet. The FBI field office in Atlanta occupies the 7th floor of a glass tower that reflects nothing and reveals less. Special Agent Janitor Vaughn sits at her desk, surrounded by the detritus of 18 years in federal law enforcement. Commendations she doesn't display, case files she can't forget, a coffee mug that reads, World's Okayest Federal Agent, given to her by a colleague who died in the line of duty 4 years ago. On her screen, the personnel file of Cornelius Marcus Shaw. Not the county employment file, not the DMV records. The other file, the one that required 3 phone calls to Langley, 2 levels of clearance authorization, and a personal conversation with a deputy director who asked her, twice, if she was certain she wanted to proceed. She was certain. Now she's reading. Central Intelligence Agency, personnel file, partial declassification. Classification, TS/SCI, no foreign. Name, Shaw Cornelius Marcus. Date of birth, November 4th, 1966. Place of birth, Macon, Georgia. Service record, 1988 to 2016, Central Intelligence Agency, Special Activities Division, Ground Branch. Final rank, Master Sergeant, E8 equivalent. Security clearance, TS/SCI, with polygraph. Deployments, redacted. The list continues. 47 operations across 5 continents. Countries that don't officially acknowledge American presence. Missions that never happened according to every official record. Commendations. Silver Star, citation classified. Bronze Star with V device, ×2. Purple Heart. Intelligence Star, citation classified. Medical separation, 2016. Diagnosis, PTSD, traumatic brain injury, blast exposure. Prognosis, full cognitive recovery expected. Psychological monitoring recommended. Current status, inactive reserve, subject to recall. Handler reference, Franklin J. Gaines, codename Spectre. Vaughn reads the file 3 times. Then she closes her laptop, walks to her window, and looks out at the Atlanta skyline. A janitor. They picked a fight with a janitor who spent 28 years doing things that would give most people nightmares for the rest of their lives. She thinks about Travis Gunner, his swagger, his certainty that a badge and a gun made him powerful. She thinks about Sheriff Craddock, his 30 years of building a kingdom on selective enforcement and institutional protection. They have no idea what's coming. Vaughn returns to her desk, picks up her phone, dials a number from the file. Mr. Gaines, This is Special Agent Janitor Vaughn, FBI Civil Rights Division. I think we need to talk about Cornelius Shaw. The same morning, Jonesboro, Georgia. Cornelius Shaw stands in his kitchen, coffee untouched, staring at the wall. He hasn't slept well in 3 weeks. Not since the supply closet. Not since Franklin's call. The old rhythms are returning. The hypervigilance, the threat assessment that runs constantly in the background of his mind, the dreams that aren't dreams but memories wearing different masks. His phone sits on the counter. Franklin called again yesterday, and the day before. Cornelius hasn't answered. What would he say? Yes, come help me fight a county sheriff who doesn't know I exist as anything more than a mop pusher. Yes, bring the old world back into my life because 2 deputies decided I looked like an easy target. He's spent 6 years building this invisibility. 6 years convincing himself that the man he was, the man who could clear a room in 4 seconds, who could extract information from subjects who swore they'd die first, who could disappear into any environment and emerge with mission accomplished, that man was gone. But he isn't gone. He's just been sleeping. And now he's awake. The phone rings. Not Franklin's number this time. Unknown caller, Atlanta area code. He answers. Mr. Shaw, this is Special Agent Janitor Vaughn, FBI. I'm investigating complaints against the Clayton County Sheriff's Office, and your name has come up. I'd like to meet with you. Cornelius is silent for 3 seconds. Processing. How did you get this number? Your employer file. I should mention, Mr. Shaw, that I've also reviewed your other file, the one that required Langley authorization. Another silence. Longer this time. I see. I'm not here to compromise you, Mr. Shaw. I'm here because 2 deputies with a history of civil rights violations targeted you, and I want to stop them from doing it to anyone else. But I should be honest. Your background complicates things. If this goes to trial, your past could become relevant. My past is classified. Parts of it, not all. And defense attorneys have a way of finding threads to pull. Vaughn's voice is measured, professional, but not unkind. I'm giving you a choice, Mr. Shaw. You can cooperate with my investigation, which means your identity stays protected as much as legally possible. Or you can walk away, and I pursue this without you, which means I can't control what comes out or how. Cornelius looks out his window. The parking lot is empty. No sedan. No watchers. That doesn't mean they're not there. When do you want to meet? Tomorrow, 10 a.m. I'll come to you. There's a coffee shop on Main Street in Jonesboro, the Daily Grind. Public space, no pressure. I'll be there. One more thing, Mr. Shaw. A man named Franklin Gaines has been trying to reach me. Says he's your former handler. He wants to help. Cornelius closes his eyes. Tell him I'll call him tonight. I will. A pause. And Mr. Shaw? Whatever happened in that supply closet, whatever they did or tried to do, you're not alone anymore. The federal government takes civil rights violations seriously, especially when the victim is someone who spent 3 decades serving this country. She hangs up. Cornelius sets the phone down, looks at his cold coffee, looks at the shoebox on his table, still unopened. Then he picks up the phone and dials a number he memorized 23 years ago. Spectre, it's Cornelius. I'm ready to talk. If you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe and the notification bell. The reveal that's coming will leave you speechless. 4 days later, Internal Affairs hearing. The Clayton County Administrative Building sits 3 blocks from the courthouse, a squat structure of brown brick and tinted windows that houses the bureaucratic machinery of local government. Room 204, officially designated as Conference Room B, but known to everyone who works here as the hot seat, is where careers come to die. Today, it's standing room only. On one side of the long table, Travis Gunner in civilian clothes, jaw tight, eyes scanning the room with the desperate energy of a cornered animal. Boyd Haskell beside him, visibly sweating, picking at his fingernails. Their union attorney, a heavy man named Merrick, who's built a career on getting cops out of trouble, shuffles papers with practiced boredom. On the other side, Cornelius Shaw, wearing the same gray slacks and white button-down he wears to church. The church he doesn't attend, but the clothes serve their purpose. Calm, unremarkable, nothing to provoke. Beside him, a man no one recognizes. Franklin Gaines is 67 years old, silver hair cropped military short, face weathered by decades of sun and stress and secrets. He wears a gray suit, no tie, no visible insignia. His posture suggests someone accustomed to command. His eyes suggest someone accustomed to violence. He's placed a leather briefcase on the table. It hasn't been opened yet. At the head of the table, the Internal Affairs panel, 3 county officials, none of whom look happy to be here. Captain Marcus Webb, IA commander, presides. He's done this for 15 years and knows exactly how these things usually go. Officers protected, complainants dismissed, system preserved. But there's someone else in the room. Standing near the door, observing but not participating. A black woman in a charcoal suit, credentials visible on her belt. FBI. Webb clears his throat. This hearing is convened to review complaint number 2024-0147, filed by Laverne Atkins on behalf of Cornelius Shaw, against deputies Travis Gunner and Boyd Haskell. The allegations include harassment, false imprisonment, evidence tampering, and assault. All parties have been advised of their rights. He looks at Merrick. Counsel for the officers, your opening statement. Merrick stands, buttons his jacket. Captain Webb, panel members. This is a simple case of a disgruntled employee making false accusations against officers who were doing their jobs. My clients observed suspicious behavior, investigated appropriately, and were attacked by Mr. Shaw when they attempted to question him. Deputy Gunner has a bruised wrist to show for it. We have 2 eyewitnesses, the officers themselves, and no physical evidence supporting Mr. Shaw's version of events. He sits, confident. This is his territory. Webb nods. Mr. Shaw, your response? Cornelius looks at Franklin. Franklin nods once. Cornelius speaks, his voice level. I have evidence. Merrick snorts. What evidence? Your word against 2 officers? Body cam footage. Silence. Gunner's face goes pale. Haskell stops picking at his nails. There is no body cam footage. Merrick's voice is less confident now. Deputy Gunner reported an equipment malfunction. Deputy Gunner reported a malfunction at 6:47 p.m. Cornelius's voice doesn't waver. Georgia State Police requires all body cam footage to be automatically uploaded to a state archive server at 6 p.m. daily. The deletion request came 47 minutes after the automatic upload. He turns to Franklin. Franklin opens the briefcase. Captain Webb, with your permission, I'd like to enter this into evidence. He produces a USB drive. This contains body cam footage recovered from the Georgia State Archive, authenticated by their IT department with chain of custody documentation. The footage is timestamped March 15, 2024, 1732 through 1741. Webb takes the drive like it might bite him. How did you obtain this? FOIA request. Filed the day after the incident. Response time was 14 days. The archive confirmed the footage was backed up before Deputy Gunner's deletion request was processed. Merrick is on his feet. This is improper procedure. Chain of custody hasn't been verified by this panel. Your clients have a right to due process. The FBI agent steps forward. Special Agent Janitor Vaughn, badge now in hand. Which is exactly what they're getting. Captain Webb, I'd like to add federal documentation to this proceeding. The FBI has been monitoring complaints against Deputies Gunner and Haskell for 18 months. This is the 3rd incident involving these officers and allegations of civil rights violations. She places a folder on the table. Contents include 2 previous complaints, both settled with non-disclosure agreements. FOIA obtained emails between Deputy Gunner and IT support requesting deletion of official recordings. Personnel records showing both deputies were transferred from other jurisdictions following excessive force allegations. Gunner stands abruptly, chair scraping. "This is a setup. They're trying to—" "Sit down, deputy." Webb's voice is sharp. "Or you'll be removed." Gunner sits. His hands are shaking. Webb looks at the USB drive, at the folder, at the FBI agent standing calmly by the door. "We'll need to review this evidence before proceeding. This hearing is recessed until—" "Captain Webb." Franklin Gaines speaks for the first time. His voice carries the quiet authority of someone who has commanded men in situations where hesitation meant death. "Before you recess, there's one more piece of evidence I need to enter." He reaches into the briefcase again. This time he produces a folder. Red cover. The kind of red that means classified. "I've been authorized by the Director of National Intelligence to submit the following into evidence." He opens the folder, slides a single sheet across the table. "This is the personnel summary of Cornelius Marcus Shaw, formerly of the Central Intelligence Agency, Special Activities Division." The room goes absolutely still. Gunner's mouth opens, closes, opens again. "What?" Franklin's eyes find Gunner's. "Hold them." "Deputy, you didn't assault a janitor. You assaulted a 28-year veteran of the most elite Special Operations Unit in the United States intelligence community. A man with 47 classified missions. A man who has received the Silver Star, the Bronze Star with Valor, and the Purple Heart." He pauses. "A man who could have broken your arm in the time it took him to let you go." Silence. Complete. Devastating. Franklin continues. "The footage you thought you deleted shows exactly what happened in that supply closet. A trained operative, trained to kill, I should mention, used the minimum force necessary to stop your attack, and then released you. He asked to go home. You refused." He turns to the panel. "Cornelius Shaw spent 3 decades defending this country. He retired due to injuries sustained in service. He took a job pushing a mop because he wanted peace. And these men," he gestures at Gunner and Haskell, "decided he looked like an easy target." Captain Webb stares at the document, at the CIA seal, at the words Special Activities Division, that he probably doesn't fully understand but knows enough to fear. "This hearing is recessed." His voice is barely above a whisper. "Indefinitely." Outside the hearing room, hallway. Gunner catches up to Cornelius, grabs his arm. "You think this changes anything?" His voice is low, vicious, desperate. "You think some fancy government file means you win? I've got friends in this department. I've got the union. I've got—" Cornelius turns. For 6 years, he's kept the mask on. The hunched shoulders, the downcast eyes, the posture of invisibility. Now the mask slips. He doesn't raise his voice, doesn't make a threat, just looks at Gunner with eyes that have seen things, done things, that would break most men's sanity. "Deputy, in 1897 there was a village in a country that no longer exists. The people there did something to an American asset, something bad. I was sent to deliver a message." He steps closer. Gunner tries to back away, hits the wall. "When I left that village, there were no more people. There was no more village. There was just a message." His voice drops to a whisper. "You're not a message, deputy. You're not worth one. But if you touch me again, if you come near me again, if you so much as look at me wrong, I will spend every resource I have, call in every favor I'm owed, and make your life a very small, very uncomfortable place." He releases Gunner's arm, steps back. "Go home. Hire a good lawyer. You're going to need one." He walks away. Behind him, Travis Gunner slides down the wall and sits on the floor, staring at nothing. He thought he was the predator. He was wrong. 2 weeks later, federal grand jury. The proceedings are sealed. Grand jury testimony is secret by law, a protection designed to encourage witnesses to speak freely, without fear of retaliation from those they accuse. Inside the federal courthouse in downtown Atlanta, 23 citizens sit in the jury box. They've been listening for 2 days, watching footage, reading documents, hearing testimony that peels back the carefully constructed facade of the Clayton County Sheriff's Office. Special Agent Janitor Vaughn presents the case. Methodical, thorough, each piece of evidence authenticated, Each witness credible, each connection between incidents documented. Day 1, the pattern. 3 complaints in 18 months, all involving the same 2 deputies. Settlements with ND, as that buried the truth. Personnel files showing prior misconduct in other jurisdictions, a system designed to protect predators and silence prey. Day 2, the Shaw incident. Body cam footage, played in full. The supply closet. Gunner's baton swing. Cornelius's restraint. The words, "I don't want trouble. I just want to go home." Then the emails. The IT deletion request. The timestamp that proved Gunner tried to destroy evidence. Then the testimony. Laverne Atkins takes the stand. 22 years at the courthouse. A woman who saw everything and finally decided to speak. They targeted him from the beginning. Her voice is steady, but her hands grip the rail. I watched them. Every day, some new humiliation, some new way to make him feel small. And he never responded, never fought back, just took it. The prosecutor, Assistant U.S. Attorney Michelle Park, asks the obvious question. Why do you think they targeted Mr. Shaw specifically? Because he was black, because he was quiet, because they thought no one would believe him. She pauses. They were almost right. Day 3, the institutional failure. Captain Marcus Webb testifies under subpoena. He confirms that complaints against Gunner and Haskell were handled administratively, meaning buried. He confirms that Sheriff Craddock personally reviewed and approved the settlements that silenced previous victims. He confirms that the department's use of force policy hadn't been updated in 12 years. Were you aware of Deputy Gunner's history of complaints before he was hired? Webb hesitates. We were aware of some issues from his previous department. And he was hired anyway? The sheriff made that decision. Did you object? Silence. Captain Webb? No, I did not object. The grand jury deliberates for 4 hours. When they return, they hand the prosecutor a sealed envelope. Park opens it, reads silently, then announces the results. The grand jury has returned true bills on all counts. Deputy Travis Gunner, indicted on charges of deprivation of civil rights under color of law, 18 U.S.C. 242, evidence tampering, false imprisonment, and assault. Deputy Boyd Haskell, indicted on charges of conspiracy to deprive civil rights and accessory to evidence tampering. She pauses. Additionally, the grand jury has recommended further investigation into Sheriff Lonnie Craddock for potential obstruction of justice and conspiracy charges. The indictments are unsealed that afternoon. By evening, it's national news. What happens next will shock you. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. The same evening, Sheriff Craddock's office. Lonnie Craddock stands at his window, watching the news vans gather in the parking lot below. His phone has been ringing for 3 hours. He stopped answering 2 hours ago. On his desk, a target letter from the United States Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia. The letter informs him that he is a subject of a federal investigation. It recommends he retain counsel. It does not specify charges. It doesn't need to. He knows what's coming. 30 years. 30 years of building this department, this power, this kingdom of selective enforcement and quiet arrangements. 30 years of knowing which palms to grease, which complaints to bury, which officers to protect. All of it, crumbling because a janitor wouldn't stay down. His door opens. Patricia, his secretary, pale-faced. Sir, the FBI is here. They have a warrant. Behind her, agents in windbreakers stream into the office. They're professional, efficient, courteous in the way that federal agents are courteous when they know they've already won. Sheriff Craddock. Denitra Vaughn steps forward, document in hand. This warrant authorizes the seizure of all records, communications, and electronic devices related to complaints against Deputies Gunner and Haskell, as well as any documentation concerning your department's hiring practices and use of force policies. Craddock doesn't move. You're making a mistake, Agent. I have friends. The governor's office released a statement an hour ago. Vaughn's voice is flat. They support full cooperation with federal authorities and have confidence in the justice system. You might want to call them back. She hands him a business card. This is the number for the U.S. Attorney's Office. If you'd like to discuss cooperation, they're available until 8 p.m. After that, the offer expires. Craddock takes the card. His hand is shaking. What offer? Resignation, forfeiture of supervisory pension benefits, full cooperation with our investigation into your officers. In exchange, we recommend administrative penalties rather than criminal prosecution. And if I don't? Then we proceed with the obstruction charges. Vaughn's eyes are steady. And we dig deeper. 30 years of records, Sheriff. That's a lot of digging. She turns and walks out. Behind her, agents begin removing boxes, hard drives, file cabinets, the accumulated evidence of 3 decades of selective justice. Craddock watches them go. Then he picks up his phone and calls the one lawyer in Atlanta who specializes in keeping powerful men out of prison. The conversation lasts 11 minutes. At 7:43 p.m., Sheriff Lonnie Craddock signs a letter of resignation, effective immediately. 1 week later, press conference. The Clayton County Courthouse steps are crowded with reporters, cameras, microphones thrust forward like weapons. Captain Marcus Webb stands at the podium, acting sheriff now, a title he never wanted and isn't sure he deserves. The Clayton County Sheriff's Office takes all allegations of misconduct with the utmost seriousness. Deputy Travis Gunner has been arrested and charged with federal civil rights violations. He is currently being held at the Fulton County Jail on $75,000 bail. A reporter shouts, "What about Deputy Haskell?" Deputy Haskell has been terminated for cause and is awaiting state charges for his role in the incident. He has agreed to cooperate with federal prosecutors. Another reporter, "And Sheriff Craddock?" Former Sheriff Craddock resigned last week. He is cooperating with the federal investigation. Webb's jaw tightens. I can't comment on any potential charges against him. Captain, is it true the victim was a CIA operative? Webb hesitates. This is the question he dreaded. Mr. Shaw's background has been confirmed by federal authorities. He is a decorated veteran who served his country with distinction. Beyond that, I'm not at liberty to discuss classified information. The questions keep coming. Webb answers what he can, deflects what he can't, and tries not to think about the fact that his department just became a national symbol of everything wrong with American policing. Behind the crowd, standing near a oak tree that's been there since the courthouse was built, Cornelius Shaw watches. He doesn't approach the podium, doesn't seek the cameras, doesn't want his face on the news, his name in the headlines, his past dissected by strangers with opinions. Franklin Gaines stands beside him. You could say something, could say, tell your side. Cornelius shakes his head. I already said enough. The public wants a hero, Cornelius, someone to cheer for. Then they'll have to find someone else. He turns away from the crowd. I just wanted to go home. That's still true. They walk to Franklin's rental car. Behind them, the press conference continues. Questions and non-answers and the grinding machinery of accountability, finally, reluctantly, turning. 3 months later, Department of Justice announcement. The press release arrives at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, distributed to every major news outlet simultaneously. Department of Justice announces pattern or practice investigation into Clayton County Sheriff's Office. Washington. The Department of Justice announced today that it has opened a pattern or practice investigation into the Clayton County Sheriff's Office in Georgia, following evidence of systematic civil rights violations and institutional failures. The evidence we've gathered indicates a pattern of racial profiling, excessive force, evidence tampering, and retaliation against complainants, said Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, Kristen Clark. We are committed to ensuring that all Americans receive equal protection under the law, regardless of the color of their skin or the community they live in. The investigation will examine hiring practices, use of force policies, complaint handling procedures, and the department's relationship with the communities it serves. If violations are found, DOJ may seek a consent decree mandating reforms under federal oversight. Cornelius reads the announcement on his phone, sitting in his apartment, coffee cold beside him. Federal oversight, consent decrees, mandatory reforms. Words that sound like victory, but feel like something else. Something smaller. Something incomplete. Because Travis Gunner is out on bail, awaiting trial. Because Boyd Haskell took a plea deal, 2 years probation, no prison time, in exchange for testimony. Because Margot Sinclair received a 90-day suspension and mandatory bias training, but kept her job. Because Dwight Norwood got a written reprimand and reassignment, but will retire with full benefits in 3 years. Because the system bent, but didn't break. His phone rings. Pastor Redmond. Mr. Shaw, I heard the news. The community is celebrating. They're saying justice was served. Some justice. Cornelius's voice is tired. Partial justice. Delayed justice. That's the only kind there is, Mr. Shaw. The other kind, complete, immediate, perfect, that's for fairy tales and movies. In the real world, we take what we can get and keep pushing for more. Cornelius is silent. The Hendricks family is asking about you. The children, they want to thank the man who saved them from that fire. I didn't. You did. And it's time you stopped hiding from the good you've done, the same way you stopped hiding from the bad that was done to you. Cornelius looks out his window. The parking lot is empty. The sedan hasn't been back in months. I'll think about it, Pastor. That's all I ask. A pause. You know, Mr. Shaw, there's a proverb my grandmother used to say. The axe forgets, but the tree remembers. Those deputies, that sheriff, they'll forget what they did to you. They'll tell themselves stories about how they were the real victims, how the system was unfair to them. But the community remembers. And as long as we remember, their kind can't pretend the past didn't happen. And what about me? What am I supposed to remember? That you stood up, that you didn't break, that when they tried to make you invisible, you chose to be seen. The line is quiet for a moment. Come to church this Sunday, Mr. Shaw. Not for God, if that's not your thing. For the people. Let them see you. Let them thank you. Let them know that what they're fighting for is worth it. Cornelius closes his eyes. I'll think about it. Bless you, Mr. Shaw. Whatever you decide. Click. Cornelius sets the phone down, looks at the shoebox on his table, opens it for the first time in months. The silver star gleams dully in the morning light. The photograph of him and Franklin, young and unbroken, stares back. He picks up the photograph, holds it for a long time. Then he puts it back, closes the box, and begins getting ready for work. 6 months after the supply closet, the trial of Travis Gunner. The federal courthouse in downtown Atlanta is a fortress of marble and security checkpoints. Outside, protesters gather. Some supporting Gunner, holding "Back the Blue" signs. Others demanding justice, carrying photos of victims. Inside, courtroom 4B is packed. Travis Gunner sits at the defense table, wearing a suit that doesn't fit quite right, face pale, eyes darting. His attorney, not the union lawyer anymore, but a high-priced criminal defense specialist, shuffles papers with performative confidence. At the prosecution table, Assistant U.S. Attorney Michelle Park arranges her exhibits. She's been doing this for 12 years. She knows how these cases usually go. Juries reluctant to convict officers, reasonable doubt weaponized, institutional sympathy tilting the scales. But this case is different. This case has body cam footage. The trial lasts 8 days. Day 1. Opening statements. Park lays out the evidence. The pattern of complaints, the targeted harassment, the supply closet assault, the evidence tampering. Gunner's attorney argues self-defense, entrapment, a misunderstanding blown out of proportion by federal overreach. Day 2 through 4. Prosecution witnesses. Laverne Atkins testifies again. So does the IT technician who recovered the deleted footage. So does a use of force expert who explains in clinical detail exactly how restrained Cornelius's response was. In my professional opinion, Mr. Shaw used the minimum force necessary to stop the attack and then immediately disengaged. This is consistent with someone who has extensive training in de-escalation and defensive tactics. And Deputy Gunner's actions? Inconsistent with any legitimate use of force. The attack was unprovoked, disproportionate, and clearly intended to cause harm. Day 5. Cornelius Shaw takes the stand. He doesn't want to. Has argued against it twice. But Park convinced him that the jury needs to see who he is. Not the classified file, not the legend, but the man. He walks to the witness box in his gray slacks and white button-down, the same clothes he wears to work, the same posture, slightly hunched, unremarkable, invisible. Park leads him through the basics, his name, his job, his 6 years at the courthouse. Then she asks about the supply closet. Cornelius describes it without drama. The message, the dark room, the accusation, the baton swing. His response. "Why didn't you fight back, Mr. Shaw? You clearly had the ability." "I didn't want to hurt anyone. I just wanted to go home." "But Deputy Gunner was attacking you, with a weapon." "Yes. And you could have stopped him, permanently." Cornelius is silent for a moment. "I spent 28 years doing things I can't talk about. Things that needed doing, but things that cost me a lot. When I retired, I promised myself I was done with violence, done with hurting people, even people who deserved it." He looks at the jury. 12 faces, some skeptical, some sympathetic, all human. "Deputy Gunner swung at me. I stopped him. Then I let him go. Because that's who I choose to be now. Not what I was trained for, what I choose." The defense attorney's cross-examination is aggressive. He pushes on Cornelius's classified past, implies dark secrets, suggests instability. Cornelius answers calmly. Doesn't rise to provocation. Doesn't let the mask slip. At one point, the attorney asks, "Mr. Shaw, isn't it true that you were trained to lie? To deceive? That your entire career was built on manipulation and violence?" Cornelius meets his eyes. "I was trained to protect this country. I was trained to complete missions that kept Americans safe. I was trained to do things I'm not proud of, in places most people will never know existed." He pauses. "And then I was trained to let it go, to find peace, to push a mop and not hurt anyone. Deputy Gunner took that from me. He made me remember what I'm capable of. I don't thank him for that." The jury deliberates for 6 hours. When they return, the verdict is unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Chids. Sentencing hearing. 2 weeks later. Judge Eleanor Whitfield presides. She's been on the federal bench for 22 years, known for fairness and occasional flashes of controlled fury when cases offend her sense of justice. This case offends her. "Deputy Gunner, please rise." Travis Gunner stands. He's thinner now, gaunt, the confidence stripped away by months of legal proceedings and public exposure. "The jury has found you guilty of deprivation of civil rights under color of law, evidence tampering, false imprisonment, and assault. These are serious offenses. They represent not just crimes against Mr. Shaw, but crimes against the principles this country is supposed to stand for." She looks at him over her glasses. "You had power. You had a badge. You had the trust of the community. And you used all of it to torment a man whose only crime was existing in a space you decided he didn't belong." Her voice hardens. "The defense has argued for leniency, citing your service record and family circumstances. The prosecution has argued for maximum penalties, citing the pattern of misconduct and the calculated nature of your crimes." She shuffles papers, takes a breath. "I've considered both arguments, and I've concluded that this case requires a sentence that sends a clear message to other officers, to other departments, to everyone who thinks a badge makes them above the law. Travis Gunner, I sentence you to 7 years in federal prison. You will serve a minimum of 5 years before parole eligibility. Upon release, you will be permanently prohibited from working in law enforcement or any position of public trust. Gunner's legs buckle. His attorney catches him. Additionally, I'm ordering you to pay restitution to Mr. Shaw in the amount of $50,000 and to the county for the cost of the investigation. She bangs the gavel. This court is adjourned. The same day, outside the courthouse, Cornelius stands near the oak tree again. Same spot as before, same instinct to stay invisible, even now. Janitor Vaughn finds him there. 7 years. She stands beside him, watching the reporters disperse. Not as much as we asked for, but more than most officers get. He'll serve at least 5. And the others? Haskell got 2 years probation, cooperating witness. Sinclair's suspension ends next month. Norwood's retiring early. She pauses. Craddock is still under investigation. The obstruction charges are complicated. He might get immunity if he helps us build cases against other departments. Cornelius nods. Partial justice. The only kind there is. They're silent for a moment. The consent decree was finalized last week. 36 months of federal oversight, mandatory reforms, body cameras for all officers, civilian oversight board, independent investigation of all use of force incidents. Will it work? Some of it. For a while. Until the monitors leave and the old habits come back. Vaughn's voice is honest, weary. That's how it always goes. We push. They resist. We win some, lose some, keep pushing. That's not very encouraging. No, but it's real. She turns to face him. You made a difference, Mr. Shaw. Not just for yourself. For every person those deputies would have targeted if they'd gotten away with this. For every complaint that got buried. Every victim who stayed silent. You showed them it's possible to fight back and win. I didn't want to be a symbol. Nobody does. But here you are. She offers her hand. If you ever need anything, a reference, a contact, someone to back you up, you have my number. He shakes it. Thank you, Agent Vaughn. Thank you, Mr. Shaw, for your service. All of it. She walks away. Cornelius stands alone under the oak tree, watching the last reporters pack up their cameras. 7 years. A consent decree. A department under federal oversight. Not enough. But more than nothing. He turns and walks to his car. Tomorrow, he goes back to work. 1 year later. Mount Zion Baptist Church. The ceremony is small, by design. Cornelius didn't want fanfare, didn't want speeches, didn't want to be the center of attention. But Pastor Redmond insisted, and the community agreed. And somewhere in the negotiations, Cornelius stopped resisting. Now he sits in the front pew, uncomfortable in his one good suit, while Pastor Redmond addresses the congregation. We're here today to honor a man who wanted nothing more than to be invisible. To do his job, go home, and be left alone. But God, or fate, or circumstance, depending on your belief, had other plans. The pastor looks at Cornelius. His eyes are warm. Cornelius Shaw served this country for 28 years, in ways most of us will never know. Then he came here, to our community, and served us, quietly, without recognition, without thanks. And when injustice came for him, he stood up, not with violence, not with vengeance, but with the truth. He gestures to a plaque being held by a young woman, one of the Hendricks children, Cornelius realizes, the girl he pulled from the fire 3 years ago. This plaque will hang in our community center. It reads, "In honor of Cornelius Shaw, who served in shadow and stood in light, a reminder that courage doesn't always look like we expect." The congregation applauds. Cornelius stands, accepts the plaque, shakes hands with people he barely knows but who seem to know him. Afterward, outside, Franklin Gaines waits by a rental car. "Nice speech. I didn't want any of this." "I know." Franklin smiles. "But you deserved it. You deserved more, actually. A parade, a medal, a statue. I have enough medals. Cornelius looks at the church, the community center next door, the children playing in the parking lot. This is better. This means something. So what now? Back to pushing a mop? Cornelius considers the question. The consent decree created a civilian oversight board. They need members, people who understand how systems work, how power corrupts, how to hold institutions accountable. Franklin raises an eyebrow. You applied? Pastor Redmond nominated me. The community supported it. He pauses. I said yes. The invisible man, serving on an oversight board. That's ironic. Maybe. Cornelius looks at his old friend. Or maybe it's what I was always supposed to do. Watch. Document. Wait for the right moment. The skills don't go away, Franklin. I just found a different way to use them. Franklin nods slowly. You know they'll fight you. The department, the union, the old guard. They'll try to make you invisible again. Let them try. Cornelius's voice is quiet but certain. I've been invisible before. I know how it works. I also know how to stop being invisible when it matters. They shake hands. Take care of yourself, Cornelius, and if you ever need backup, I know where to find you. Franklin drives away. Cornelius stands in the parking lot, holding the plaque, watching the sunset over a community that finally knows his name. 18 months after the supply closet, Clayton County Courthouse, 5:47 in the morning. Cornelius Shaw badges through the east entrance. The security guard, a new hire, young, nervous, looks up this time, nods. Morning, Mr. Shaw. Morning. He doesn't push a cart anymore, doesn't wear the gray uniform, but he's here anyway, walking the hallways he knows by heart, checking the corners, noting what's changed and what hasn't. The supply closet where it happened has been converted to a storage room for the new body camera equipment. Rows of charging stations, labeled slots, automatic upload logs. Progress. Partial, imperfect, but progress. He takes the elevator to the third floor. The Civilian Oversight Board meets in Conference Room A, the big one, with the windows and the table that seats 20. He's early, always early. Some habits don't change. The hallway is quiet at this hour. Empty offices, dark courtrooms, the building breathing before the day begins. He passes Craddock's old office. Different name on the door now. Acting Sheriff Marcus Webb, who's been doing the job for a year and will probably keep it. Not perfect, but better. Willing to listen. Willing to change. Cornelius's phone buzzes. A text from Janitor Vaughn. Gunner's parole hearing is next month. Prosecutor says he'll likely serve the full 7. Thought you'd want to know. He reads it. Doesn't respond. Pockets the phone. 7 years. A long time for a man who thought he was untouchable. Not long enough for the damage he did, but it's something. He enters the conference room, takes his seat, pulls out the agenda for today's meeting. Use of force policy revision, complaint handling procedures, the latest statistics on traffic stops and their demographics. The work is slow, tedious, frustrating. For every reform implemented, there's resistance. For every policy changed, there's pushback. For every step forward, half a step back. But the needle moves. Slowly, incrementally. It moves. The other board members arrive. Community leaders, civil rights attorneys, a retired judge, people who care, people who fight. Pastor Redmond is the last through the door. He takes the seat next to Cornelius, sets down a cup of coffee, slides a folder across the table. New complaint. New. Officer on the east side, multiple stops. Pattern looks familiar. Cornelius opens the folder, reads the name, the badge number, the incidents. I'll look into it. I know you will. Redmond smiles. That's why we have you. The meeting begins. Agenda items, discussion, votes. The machinery of accountability, slow and imperfect and absolutely necessary. Cornelius listens, speaks when he has something to say, takes notes on patterns only he can see. And somewhere in the building, a young deputy walks his beat, unaware that eyes are watching, that systems are tracking, that the old ways aren't quite as protected as they used to be. It's not enough. It's never enough. But it's more than nothing. And more than nothing is where change begins. That evening, Cornelius's apartment. He sits by the window watching the parking lot fill with the cars of people coming home from work. Normal people, normal lives, the invisible rhythm of existence that he craved for so long and finally, partially, found. On the table, the shoebox. Open. The silver star sits on top now. He took it out this morning, for the first time in years. Didn't know why then, knows why now. The medal isn't a trophy, it's a reminder of what he did, what he survived, what he chose to become afterward. He picks up the photograph of him and Franklin, studies the faces. Young men who thought they knew what service meant. Old men who learned that service never really ends. It just changes form. His phone rings. Unknown number. He answers. "Mr. Shaw?" A woman's voice, unfamiliar. "My name is Teresa Caldwell. I'm a reporter with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I'm writing a story about the Civilian Oversight Board, and I was hoping to interview you." Cornelius considers. Interviews mean visibility. Visibility means vulnerability. Vulnerability means everything he spent years avoiding. What kind of story? About how change happens. About the people who make it happen. About whether oversight actually works or whether it's just window dressing. And you think I have something to say about that? I think you have more to say than anyone. You've seen the system from both sides. You've been a victim of it, and now you're trying to fix it. That perspective matters. He's silent for a long moment. "I'll think about it. That's all I ask. Here's my number, whenever you're ready." He writes it down, hangs up. Visibility. The opposite of everything he wanted. The exact thing that got him into trouble. But also, maybe, the thing that makes the trouble worth something. He looks at the silver star again. At the photograph. At the shoebox full of memories he's carried for 3 decades. Then he picks up the phone and dials. "Ms. Caldwell, this is Cornelius Shaw. I've thought about it. Let's talk." 3 days later, the daily grind, Main Street. The coffee shop is busy in the late afternoon. Students, remote workers, the ambient noise of a community going about its business. Cornelius sits at a corner table, back to the wall, facing the door. Teresa Caldwell is 43, gray streaks in her dark hair, the kind of tired that comes from years of chasing stories that matter. She sets her recorder on the table, double-checks that it's running. "Thank you for agreeing to this." "I'm not sure I should have, but here we are." Let's start with the obvious question. Why did you take the job? After everything that happened, the assault, the trial, the publicity, why stay involved? Why not just walk away? Cornelius considers the question. Because walking away is what they want. The people who abuse power, the systems that protect them, they count on victims getting tired, getting frustrated, giving up. He pauses. "I didn't survive 28 years of classified operations to give up because some deputy with a chip on his shoulder made my life difficult. But it's more than difficult now. You're in the spotlight. Your past is public, at least partially. The anonymity you wanted, it's gone." "Yes." "Do you regret that?" He's quiet for a moment. "I regret that it was necessary. I regret that a man couldn't push a mop in peace without being treated like a criminal. I regret that speaking up was the only way to be heard." He looks at her. "But I don't regret speaking up. Someone had to. And I learned a long time ago, in places I can't tell you about, that waiting for someone else to act is a good way to die waiting." What do you hope to accomplish with the Oversight Board? "I don't have illusions about changing the world. The system is what it is. Power protects power. Institutions resist accountability. That's not going to change overnight, or maybe ever." He pauses. "But you can make the cost of misconduct higher. You can make it harder to hide. You can create records that outlast the people who created the problems. That's what I know how to do. Observe, Document. Wait. And when the waiting's over, then you act, decisively, with evidence, and you hope it's enough. Teresa studies him. You don't talk like a janitor. I was never just a janitor. I was someone who needed to be invisible, and janitor was the best disguise I could find. He almost smiles. Turns out, I wasn't as invisible as I thought. Do you think what happened to you was personal or systematic? Both. Gunner targeted me because I was black and quiet, and he thought I couldn't fight back. That's personal. But the system let him do it, protected him, buried the complaints, enabled the pattern. That's systematic. He leans forward. Personal evil is easy to understand. It's one person making bad choices. Systematic evil is harder. It's 1,000 small choices, none of them obviously wrong, that add up to something monstrous. Both have to be fought, but they require different tactics. What tactics? Personal evil, you confront, you expose, you make an example. Gunner's in prison because we confronted him. He pauses. Systematic evil, you have to be patient. You document, you build cases, you create pressure that the system can't ignore. The consent decree, the oversight board, those are systematic responses. They're slow, they're frustrating, but they're the only things that create lasting change. The interview continues for another hour. Cornelius answers what he can, deflects what he must, provides the kind of careful, considered responses that come from a lifetime of saying exactly what needs to be said and nothing more. When it's over, Teresa turns off the recorder. Off the record? Depends what you're asking. The file, the CIA stuff, 28 years of classified operations. She hesitates. Did you ever do anything you regret? Cornelius is silent for a long moment. Ms. Caldwell, I've done things that keep me awake at night. Things I can't talk about, will never talk about, that serve this country in ways most people don't want to know. I followed orders. I completed missions. I told myself it was necessary. He meets her eyes. But I also know that necessary is what powerful people say when they don't want to admit they had other choices. I made my peace with that a long time ago, or I thought I did. And now? Now I try to do better, to use what I learned for something other than violence, to protect people instead of... He trails off. It's not redemption. I don't believe in redemption. It's just the next chapter, the one I get to write myself. Teresa nods slowly. Thank you, Mr. Shaw, for your honesty. Thank you for asking real questions. He stands. Most people just want the hero story, the janitor who turned out to be a secret warrior. They don't want to think about what that actually means. What does it mean? It means I know how to hurt people. It means I've hurt people. And it means I've spent every day since I retired trying to be someone who doesn't. He picks up his coffee cup, now empty. Some days I succeed, some days I don't, but I keep trying. He walks out. Teresa watches him go, then looks down at her recorder. She has a story. She's not sure it's the one she expected to tell, but it's true. And sometimes that's enough. 2 years after the supply closet. The final scene. Clayton County Courthouse, 5:47 in the morning. Cornelius Shaw walks through the east entrance. The security guard, still the young one, less nervous now, waves him through. Morning, Mr. Shaw. Morning. He takes the stairs instead of the elevator. 3rd floor, conference room A. The Civilian Oversight Board meets in 2 hours, but he has paperwork to review first. The hallway is quiet. Empty offices, dark courtrooms, the building breathing before the day begins. He passes the supply closet where it all started. Converted now, full of body camera equipment, a symbol of everything that changed and everything that still needs to change. He enters the conference room, takes his seat, pulls out the files he brought from home, new complaints, pattern analyses, follow-up reports on officers who were disciplined but not fired. The work never ends. The resistance never stops. The system bends, slowly, reluctantly, but it bends. His phone buzzes. A text from Pastor Redmond. Community center opening tonight. They named the new wing after you. Try to look surprised. Cornelius almost smiles. He didn't want recognition, didn't want his name on anything. But the community insisted, and somewhere along the way, he stopped fighting it. Maybe that's what healing looks like. Not forgetting the past, but allowing the present to be different. He works for an hour, alone in the quiet room. The sun rises through the windows, painting the table in strips of gold. At 6:45, the first board member arrives. Then another. Then Pastor Redmond, carrying coffee and that same warm smile. Ready for another day of pushing rocks uphill? Always. The meeting begins. Agenda items, discussion, votes. The machinery of accountability, slow and imperfect, and absolutely necessary. And somewhere in the building, in an evidence room that didn't exist 2 years ago, body cameras charge in rows, silent witnesses to every encounter, every decision, every moment where power meets vulnerability. It's not enough. It's never enough. But it's more than nothing. And more than nothing is where change begins. The oversight board that Cornelius Shaw helped establish continues to operate under federal supervision. In its first 2 years, complaints against Clayton County deputies dropped 47%. Use of force incidents dropped 31%. For the first time in the department's history, officers have been disciplined for violations reported by civilians without corroborating physical evidence. Travis Gunner remains in federal prison. He will be eligible for parole in 2029. Boyd Haskell completed his probation and moved out of state. His current whereabouts are unknown. Former Sheriff Lonnie Craddock was never criminally charged. He lives in retirement in Florida, where he occasionally writes letters to the editor defending real police work. Margot Sinclair returned to her position after her suspension.
She was quietly transferred to a satellite office 6 months later, following additional complaints. Dwight Norwood retired with full benefits in 2025. The Department of Justice consent decree remains in effect. Federal monitors will continue oversight until 2027, with possibility of extension. One email obtained through FOIA remains partially redacted. Lonnie, handle this quietly. We don't need another situation. The identity of the sender has never been confirmed. 10 minutes of body cam footage from March 15, 2024, specifically the footage from Boyd Haskell's camera between 1722 and 1732, has never been recovered. Cornelius Shaw serves on the Clayton County Civilian Oversight Board. He does not give interviews anymore.
He still arrives at 5:47 every morning. Old habits, after all, die hard. And some ghosts never stop walking. 3 years after the supply closet. The envelope arrives on a Tuesday. No return address, no postmark. Just Cornelius Shaw's name, handwritten in block letters, slipped under his apartment door sometime between midnight and 5 a.m. He finds it when he wakes at 4:37, 13 minutes before his alarm, same as always. The white rectangle sits on the worn carpet like an accusation. Cornelius doesn't touch it immediately. He stands in his doorway, scanning the hallway. Empty. Silent. The security camera at the end of the corridor, installed last year after a string of break-ins, blinks its red eye. He retrieves latex gloves from his kitchen drawer. Old habit. Then he picks up the envelope, carries it to his table, and opens it with a butter knife. Inside, a single sheet of paper, a photograph, and a USB drive. The paper contains 2 sentences printed, "The missing 10 minutes. Someone wanted you to have this." The photograph shows a man Cornelius doesn't recognize. White, mid-50s, receding hairline, the soft features of someone who's spent his career behind desks. He's wearing a suit, standing outside what looks like a government building. On the back of the photograph, more handwriting. Ask Craddock who signs his checks. Cornelius sets the photograph aside, looks at the USB drive. In his old life, he would have had this analyzed by a team with equipment that cost more than most houses. Checked for malware, tracking devices, explosives, Nothing was ever just what it appeared to be. Now he has a 3-year-old laptop and a coffee maker that sometimes works. He plugs in the drive, one file, video format, 10 minutes and 17 seconds long. He clicks play. The footage is body cam quality. Grainy, fisheye lens, timestamp in the corner. March 15th, 2024. 17:22:03. Boyd Haskell's camera. The missing 10 minutes. The video shows Haskell walking through the courthouse, heading toward the east wing. His breathing is audible, slightly elevated, nervous. At 17:23:41, he enters a stairwell, descends 2 floors, emerges in a basement corridor that Cornelius recognizes. Maintenance level, restricted access, rarely used. Haskell stops outside a door marked Electrical, authorized personnel only. He knocks 3 times, pause, 2 times. The door opens. Inside, Travis Gunner, and someone else. The angle is bad. Haskell's camera catches only a partial view, but Cornelius can see enough. A man in civilian clothes, gray suit, the same receding hairline from the photograph. Gunner speaks first. He's not going to cooperate. I've been pushing for weeks. He just takes it, doesn't react. The man in the gray suit responds. His voice is calm, educated, the tone of someone accustomed to giving orders. Then we escalate. The supply closet setup. It's ready? Keys are planted. Story's solid. We grab him tonight. Get the confession. He's gone by morning. And the body cam footage? IT owes me a favor. It'll disappear. The man in the gray suit nods. Good. This needs to be clean. No loose ends. He's been asking questions about the Hendricks fire. We can't have that. Cornelius pauses the video. The Hendricks fire. 3 years ago. A gas leak, an explosion, a family trapped. He pulled 2 children out through a window, disappeared before anyone could get his name. He never asked questions about that fire. Never investigated. Never thought there was anything to investigate. Someone thought otherwise. He resumes the video. Haskell's voice, nervous. What if he fights back? There's something off about him. The way he moves. The way he watches everything. The man in the gray suit laughs. Soft, dismissive. He's a 58-year-old janitor. What's he going to do? The video continues for another 6 minutes. Planning, coordination, the casual conspiracy of men who believe they're untouchable. Then Haskell leaves. The footage shows him walking back upstairs, checking his watch, adjusting his uniform. At 17:32, the video cuts to black. The missing 10 minutes. Someone wanted Cornelius to have this. The question is, why now? 7 a.m. Cornelius calls Franklin Gaines. I need you to run a face. Franklin doesn't ask why. 23 years of working together taught him that Cornelius doesn't waste words. Send it. Cornelius photographs the image, texts it through an encrypted app they both still use. Silence on the line. Then Franklin's voice. Different now. Careful. Where did you get this? It was delivered to my apartment, along with video footage, the missing 10 minutes from Haskell's body cam. More silence. Cornelius, that man is Arthur Winslow, Deputy Director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, appointed 6 years ago by the governor. Before that, he was Assistant District Attorney in Clayton County. Cornelius processes this. He was in the basement with Gunner and Haskell, planning the supply closet setup. They mentioned the Hendricks fire, said I was asking questions about it. Were you? No. I pulled 2 kids out of a burning house. That's all. Maybe that's enough. Franklin's voice is grim. The Hendricks fire was ruled accidental. Gas leak. But there were rumors at the time. The family was involved in a lawsuit against the county. Something about land seizure, eminent domain. The fire happened 3 weeks before the case was scheduled for trial. Cornelius feels something cold settle in his chest. You're saying it wasn't an accident. I'm saying someone went to a lot of trouble to make sure you couldn't ask questions, and now someone else wants you to start. Who sent the video? I don't know. But whoever it is, they have access to evidence that was supposedly destroyed. They have your address. And they're playing a game that's bigger than Travis Gunner or Boyd Haskell. Cornelius looks at the photograph. Arthur Winslow, Deputy Director of the GBI. What do I do with this? That depends on what you want. You can hand it to the FBI, let them investigate, hope the federal system does what the state system didn't. Or you do what you were trained to do. Gather intelligence, build a network, find out who sent this and why, then decide how to use it. Cornelius is quiet for a long moment. I spent 3 years trying to be someone else, someone who doesn't do that anymore. I know, Franklin's voice softens, but sometimes the past doesn't care what we want to be. Sometimes it finds us anyway. 2 days later, the daily grind. Janitor Vaughn sits across from Cornelius, coffee untouched, studying the photograph and the USB drive he's placed on the table. You're sure about this? Watch the video. Make your own judgment. She's already watched it 3 times. 3. The implications are staggering. Arthur Winslow is connected to the governor. He's been GBI deputy director for 6 years. If he was involved in planning the assault on you, if he's connected to the Hendricks fire, then it's not just a corrupt sheriff's department. It's a network. Vaughn sets down the photograph. The FBI has been aware of irregularities in Georgia state law enforcement for years. Political appointments, cases that go nowhere, evidence that disappears. We've never had enough to move on it. Now you do. Maybe. She looks at him. This video is compelling, but it's also 3 years old, delivered anonymously, with no chain of custody. A defense attorney would tear it apart. We need corroboration. What kind of corroboration? Someone who was there. Someone who can testify about what happened in that basement, what the plan was, who gave the orders. She pauses. Boyd Haskell. Cornelius shakes his head. Haskell took a plea deal. He testified against Gunner. Then he disappeared. He's in witness protection. Different program, but I can find him. Vaughn leans forward. If Haskell knew about Winslow's involvement, if he can confirm this video is authentic, we might have enough to open a federal investigation into the GBI. And if he won't talk? Then we find another way. Someone sent you this video, Cornelius. That means someone inside the system wants Winslow exposed. We find them. We find our corroboration. Cornelius considers this. The person who sent this knows where I live, knows things they shouldn't know. That's not a whistleblower with a guilty conscience. That's someone with access. Someone inside the GBI? Or higher. He meets her eyes. This could go anywhere. Governor's office, state legislature, federal agencies with Georgia connections. I know. Vaughn's voice is steady. That's why I need to know if you're in. All the way. Not as a victim this time. As an asset. The word hangs between them. Asset. The same word Franklin used, decades ago when he recruited Cornelius for operations that would reshape his understanding of what service meant. What exactly are you asking? I'm asking you to help us investigate. Use your skills, your contacts, your position on the oversight board. Find out who sent this video and what they know about Winslow's network. And if I find things you don't want found? Vaughn doesn't flinch. Then we deal with that when we get there. But right now, I'd rather have uncomfortable truths than comfortable lies. Cornelius looks at the photograph one more time. Arthur Winslow, a man who ordered his destruction as casually as ordering lunch. I'm in. If this story moved you, hit subscribe. The investigation Cornelius is about to launch will expose corruption at the highest levels. 1 week later. Clayton County Civilian Oversight Board. The meeting ends at 7 p.m. Cornelius stays behind, reviewing files, making notes, performing the routine tasks that have become his cover. At 7:30, a knock on the conference room door. He looks up. A woman stands in the doorway. Mid-30s, professional dress, the careful posture of someone who knows she's being watched. She's carrying a manila folder. "Mr. Shaw, my name is Rebecca Torres. I work for the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Internal Affairs Division." Cornelius doesn't move. "Internal Affairs. Investigating your own agency." "Yes." She steps inside, closes the door behind her. "I'm the one who sent you the video." Silence. "You're taking a significant risk, Ms. Torres, coming here, identifying yourself." "I know." She sets the folder on the table. "But I've been watching you for 3 years, watching what you did with the oversight board, how you handled the Gunner case, the way you documented everything. You're not just a victim seeking revenge. You're building something, systems, accountability. And you want to help?" "I want to stop Arthur Winslow." Her voice hardens. "I've been collecting evidence for 2 years. The Hendricks fire was just the beginning. There are at least 6 other cases, accidental deaths, convenient suicides, evidence that disappeared, all connected to people who threatened powerful interests in this state." She opens the folder. Photographs. Documents. The architecture of corruption laid bare. Winslow has a network: law enforcement, prosecutors, judges, politicians. They protect each other, cover each other's tracks, and when someone asks too many questions, they end up like the Hendricks family, or like you would have if you'd been anyone else. She meets his eyes. "I didn't know what you were when I started investigating. I just knew that a janitor had been targeted by a deputy director for no apparent reason. That made me curious." "And when you found out?" "I realized that if anyone could take down Winslow, it was someone with your training, your patience, your ability to see patterns others miss." Cornelius studies her. Young, idealistic, probably doesn't understand what she's asking him to become again. "This isn't a legal case, Ms. Torres. This is a war, against people with resources, connections, and no hesitation about eliminating threats. Are you prepared for that?" "I've been prepared for 2 years. Every night I go home wondering if tonight is when they figure out I'm investigating them. Every morning I check my car for devices. I've already lost everything that matters: my marriage, my friends, my faith in the system I swore to serve." She pauses. "What I haven't lost is the belief that this can be stopped, that it has to be stopped." Cornelius looks at the folder, at the evidence of systematic corruption spanning years, claiming lives, destroying families. The FBI is already involved. Agent Vaughn. "I know. I've been in contact with her, anonymously, until now." Rebecca Torres straightens. "She needs what I have, and I need what you have: the credibility, the platform, the skills to turn evidence into action." "Why me? Why not just give everything to the FBI and let them handle it?" "Because federal investigations take years. Appeals take longer. By the time the system finishes processing Arthur Winslow through proper channels, a dozen more people could be hurt, could be killed." She leans forward. "You know how to accelerate things, how to apply pressure where it matters, how to make powerful people afraid." Cornelius is quiet for a long moment. Then he picks up the folder. "Tell me about the other cases." 2 months later. Federal Courthouse, Atlanta. The press conference draws every major news outlet in the Southeast. Cameras line the steps. Reporters jostle for position. The story has already leaked. Federal indictments against Georgia state officials. The biggest corruption case in a decade. Janitor Vaughn stands at the podium, flanked by the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District and representatives from the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. Today, the Department of Justice announces federal indictments against Arthur Winslow, Deputy Director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, along with 14 other individuals, including law enforcement officers, prosecutors, and elected officials. She pauses, letting the cameras capture the moment. The charges include conspiracy to deprive civil rights under color of law, obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and in 3 cases, conspiracy to commit murder. The crowd erupts with questions. Vaughn waits for silence. This investigation began with a simple question. Why would a deputy director of a state law enforcement agency conspire to destroy an anonymous janitor? The answer led us to a network of corruption spanning 15 years and at least 9 suspicious deaths, including the fire that killed Marcus and Denise Hendricks in 2021. More questions. More cameras. I want to be clear about something. This case would not have been possible without the courage of individuals who came forward at great personal risk. Whistleblowers inside the GBI, community members who documented what they witnessed, and one man who refused to be silenced, who used his position on a civilian oversight board to help us build a case that no amount of political pressure could suppress. She doesn't name Cornelius Shaw. She doesn't need to. Everyone already knows. That evening, Mount Zion Baptist Church. The community center is packed. Not for a ceremony this time, just a gathering. Neighbors, friends, people who remember what happened and want to mark its ending. Cornelius sits in the back as always. Pastor Redmond finds him there. You could sit up front, you know. This is your victory. It's not my victory, it's everyone's. Cornelius watches the crowd, families, children, the ordinary people who will benefit from the corruption being exposed. I just did what I was trained to do. You did more than that. Redmond sits beside him. You showed people that fighting back is possible, that the system can be held accountable, that one person, even one person who just wants to be left alone, can make a difference. Cornelius is quiet for a moment. They offered me a job, the FBI, consulting role, helping with civil rights investigations, training agents in pattern recognition, institutional analysis. Are you going to take it? I don't know. He looks at his hands, older now, scarred, the hands of a man who's done terrible things and tried to make peace with them. Part of me wants to disappear again, find another courthouse, another mop, another kind of invisibility. And the other part? The other part knows I can't. Not anymore. He meets Redmond's eyes. The ghost who walks, the note said. Maybe that's what I am now. Not invisible. Not visible either. Something in between. Redmond nods slowly. There's a proverb I think about sometimes. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. Maybe you've been preparing for this your whole life. The training, the discipline, the patience. Maybe it wasn't about violence at all. Maybe it was about learning to see, really see, how power works. And now you're ready to teach others. Cornelius considers this. I'm not a teacher. You're whatever you choose to be, Mr. Shaw. That's the lesson you taught all of us. Redmond stands, offers his hand. Whatever you decide, know that you have a community here. People who see you, people who remember. Cornelius shakes his hand. Thank you, Pastor, for everything. Thank yourself. I just opened doors. You're the one who walked through them. 1 month later, Cornelius's apartment, 5:47 in the morning. Coffee, rice, chicken, broccoli. The routine never changes, but everything else has. On his table, a letter from the FBI offering the consulting position, a folder from Rebecca Torres, now a protected witness, containing the last of the evidence she gathered, a photograph of the Hendricks children, older now, living with relatives, sent through Pastor Redmond with a note. Thank you for giving us a chance to grow up. And the shoebox. Still there. Still closed. Cornelius opens it. The silver star. The bronze stars. The purple heart. The photograph of him and Franklin, young and unbroken. He picks up the photograph, looks at it for a long time. Then he sets it on the windowsill, where the morning light catches it. Not hidden anymore, not forgotten, just present. Part of who he was, part of who he is. His phone rings. Vaughn. Shaw. We have a new case. Mississippi this time. Sheriff's Department with a pattern that looks familiar. We could use your eyes. Cornelius looks at the photograph, at the letter, at the window where the sun is rising over a world that's slightly better than it was 3 years ago. I'm in. He hangs up, finishes his coffee, gets dressed. The work never ends. The system never stops resisting. But somewhere, in a courthouse he'll never visit, a young black man pushes a mop down a hallway and the deputies let him pass without comment. Because they know. They know someone is watching. They know someone remembers. And they know that the ghost who walks is still out there, patient, invisible, waiting for the moment when waiting ends and action begins. Cornelius Shaw steps out into the morning. The apex predator hunts again. Arthur Winslow was convicted on all counts in federal court. He received a sentence of 42 years without possibility of parole. Rebecca Torres entered witness protection following her testimony. Her current location is classified. The Hendricks case was reopened and officially reclassified as homicide. 2 additional suspects were indicted. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation underwent a complete restructuring under federal oversight. 17 officers resigned or were terminated. Cornelius Shaw accepted the FBI consulting position. He works remotely, reviewing cases, training agents, identifying patterns of institutional corruption. He still wakes at 5:47 every morning. He still eats the same breakfast. He still keeps the shoebox on his table. Open now, the medals visible, the photograph in the light. Some ghosts learn to live with their haunting. Some ghosts become something else entirely. And some ghosts, the dangerous kind, the patient kind, the kind that powerful men learn to fear, never stop walking. Not until the work is done. Not until justice, real justice, complete justice, the kind that exists only in dreams and determination, is finally fully served. The work continues. The ghost walks on.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video today. If you found the content helpful, please remember to like and subscribe so you won't miss our upcoming episodes. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. We are always here to listen.